A very good afternoon to all Facebook viewers. On behalf of Federation of Indian Chambers and Commerce of Industry, I'd like to welcome you all in a very hot debate today we're going to have on discussion on e-commerce, challenges and opportunity for the next India. The next India which belongs to the young India, the next India which belongs to rural India, the next India which belongs to rural urban India. How can we enable entrepreneurs from these areas for the e-commerce gateway? Today we have, I'd like to first thank Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Custom, Government of India. I'd like to welcome Madam Jameel. She's a Joint Commissioner, a very intelligent, vibrant officer of our country. We are proud of her. Her achievement in doing this policy reform, especially for e-commerce, well appreciated by industry and the markets. Welcome to this panel discussion, madam.
Thank you.
We have one of the best expert in our country, Dr. Preetham Banerjee, the Senior Director, South Asia Corporate Public Policy, DHL. And as you all know, DHL is a backbone spine of all businesses, especially when you talk about logistic movement, solutions, and when you talk about enabling business opportunities for e-commerce. I think we need to learn from Dr. Preetham Banerjee the challenges India is facing and the opportunity ahead. We have a very young, bright woman from University of Berkeley. She was working in the US in Fortune 200 company. She looked back to India and she thought India is the most vibrant platform to work in. She came back to India and started her own venture called Pick My Box. Pick My Box is a very unique company which provides solutions, online solutions, a single window concept for promoting e-commerce for small, medium, and startup companies in India. Welcome, the young lady. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all aware that the current market of e-commerce in India is just 500 million. Long way to go. If you see our neighbors, competitors, their statistics, like China is doing 500 billion. India is only doing 500 million. From 500 million to 500 billion, if India has to create an express highway, especially for the conducive environment of our next India, for startups, for small and medium companies. Let me first request our expert from the customs, Ms. Jameel, and we'll request her that she had come up with some new policy reform. She'll be making a presentation to you all. First, let us hear from Ms. Jameel to give a presentation on custom initiative for facilitating e-commerce exports. Over to Ms. Jameel.
Good afternoon, friends. I am Tamsin Jamir from the Central Board of Excise and Customs. From a regulator's point of view, today's interactive session is mainly to know industry's concerns and what is being expected of the government. But before going there, I would like to give a small presentation on the initiatives taken by the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs for facilitating e-commerce. So it all started in the beginning of the year in 2018 when the CBIC and the Department of Post had arranged a joint conference to discuss on how to promote e-commerce through the foreign post offices. DHL and Amazon were also roped in as knowledge partners, and taking the understanding reached on that day, CBIC took it forward and we issued the Export by Post Regulations 2018, which prescribed a postal bill of export for e-commerce. And also we have issued a custom circular, namely 14 of 2018, which delineated the procedures for all exempt trade through post. Now to facilitate e-commerce export through post, with the issue of these regulations, now any ISC holder can export through a foreign post office using this postal bill of export. Apart from being extremely simple, we have kept fields for filling up at the minimum. Apart from it being extremely simple, it also satisfies the RBI requirement of having a proof of export for the purposes of foreign exchange remittance. As we all know, any import or export through POS should be followed by a CN22 or 23 form. The CN22 or 23 form is a universally prescribed document which all the countries which are parties to the Universal Postal Union have to comply with. Now in India, that CN22 or 23 did not have a provision for sale of goods. CBIC in this regard had, in close collaboration, worked with the Department of Post, and now the Department of Post has issued a new CN22-23 form, which has the facility of sale of goods. Now earlier, exporters were concerned about using this form because when they were selling goods, they did not want to mark it as, say, a sample or a document. Now exporters can, without any hesitation, use the CN22-23 form. Another unique feature of the bill of export for postal bill of export, which we call as PBE, is that one bill of export can be used by an exporter to send as many consignments as he wants to as many consignees. So we have kept it absolutely free in the sense that the exporter can, with just a single document, export in a particular day to as many consignees as he wants. Another very forward-looking step that the CBIC has taken is that acknowledging that the EXIM trade through POS is completely in the manual mode, we have allowed private parties to come and to design apps which will help in the documentation. So Pick My Box here is one such startup who has understood this requirement and they have come up with a very simple and user-friendly app. And best of all, it is for free. So I encourage all exporters to use it. Another thing was the lack of infrastructure in many of the FPOs. So CBIC, in collaboration with the Department of Post, has now empowered every Commissioner of Customs in charge of an FPO to notify any post office for the purposes of export processing. Earlier, in the FPO scenario, customs brokers were not traditionally roped in. Now CBIC has mandated that the customs brokers can also come and help exporters in the FPO who are using the FPO mode for completing their regulatory requirements. In 2016, CBIC had issued a circular which delineated the process of how an exporter can export and claim MEIS. Now, one of the key concerns of the industry was that the value on which they can claim MEIS was very low. It was 25,000. And there was also a restriction on the FPOs, which were only three, Delhi, Mumbai, and Chennai. Now, DGFT has radically expanded the scope of MEIS. They have increased the value cap to 5 lakhs. And also, the limitation on the post has been removed. So any exporter now can, from any notified post office in the country, export goods and export goods up to 5 lakhs and avail the MEIS facility. Another thing is that through the circular issued, CBIC has also clarified that export through post can be zero rated, which means that you can either export through a letter of undertaking, or if an exporter first exports on payment of duty, he can subsequently take refund. And this has been made possible by CBIC, and we have an offline mode for capturing the data, and we are hopeful that more exporters will avail this benefit. CBIC still continues with its initiatives. We know that this is just a starting point, and there is still a long way to go. We are engaging with RBI to reform and update the master circular, including the exchange declaration form for manual exports through FPOs. As we all know, 19 FPOs have been notified by the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, but unfortunately, some of the FPOs are still not functional. We are in active consultation with the Department of Posts, and we are hopeful that the FPOs of Ahmedabad, Varanasi, Leh, and Guwahati, amongst other places, will be made functional very soon. Thank you.
Excellent, madam. I must compliment the Government of India. I must compliment your department and Department of Post. I'm very surprised to see that you have a conference on May, and we are sitting in August. The reform has already taken place. That's the young India, the next India.
Thank you. Thank you.
We like the speed and like to compliment you and Mr. Sandeep Kumar in particular, who had initiated the spark on the national interest. Moving to our expert from DHL, Dr. Preetham Banerjee. You are #1 expert in e-commerce and logistics in India. India proud to have you.
You're being very kind.
In your terms, how do you like to rate Indian export performance in the e-commerce space vis-a-vis to what should be?
Well, I think you rightly pointed out at the very start that we are far from potential. I mean, $500 million for a country of our size is peanuts. We can do much, much more. We have much more to offer the world. I think our entrepreneurs can leverage the opportunities much better. And what was described just now in terms of the initiatives that the Customs Department has taken is the first and very important step. But there are miles to go. And I would like to congratulate the entrepreneurial spirit of young India, coming up with applications like Pick My Box has done. And that's what is needed, because a lot of the smaller entrepreneurs, where they have the hurdles is specifically in terms of documentation, in terms of understanding what the rules and regulations are. So easier you make it for them, they can do better. But there are also logistics issues that we have. So depending on which market you are selling or what kind of product you are selling, your logistics solution would be somewhat different. So more high value goods going to customers who want a quicker delivery, a more robust track and trace mechanism would probably prefer to go by a reputed courier or express company, as we like to call them, like DHL or FedEx or UPS. On the other hand, if your customer is willing to wait a little bit more, the value of the item is not so much to justify the expense of quicker delivery, a postal channel is a good option. So you have to have all the mix in place to make it happen. So what we had was, for a long time, was legacy issues, like, for example, the cap of 25,000 rupees was there for a very long time. That going away and becoming 5 lakh is useful. But we still have issues in terms of claiming of export incentives, because both in post and in express, the courier environment is still manual, which means it's a very complicated process to claim back these incentive schemes. In the case of courier, it's almost impossible in sometimes, because the courier shipping bill that we use has several consignments and several different consignees. It's a consolidated shipping bill. It's in manual mode, and you cannot have that endorsed by customs to get the benefit. So there, without going into the details, there are quite a few teething problems that we still have. We have to look at a different ecosystem, perhaps, that can make things much, much easier for our exporters.
Thank you. See, as you all know, we all know that the young India, we have 60% of the population below 30. And most of the spirit of the entrepreneurship is moving like a wildfire, because the success of entrepreneurship is like an infectious success infection. And I'm very happy to see the infection is spreading in rural and rural urban India. Now, if any entrepreneur have to struggle it to take the benefit back, what in terms, Dr. Preetham, the government should do 5 things which you like them to recommend?
It's a wish list is always interesting thing to do. I think the most important thing that can be done is to look at a much more digitally enabled environment to claim these benefits. There is no reason why, since most e-commerce shipments are paid for in advance online, there is no reason why the RBI can't and the Ministry of Commerce cannot look at a mechanism where your online payment confirmation is the confirmation for payment, so you don't need to go through getting a bank realization certificate, which is very complicated for smaller exporters. Since you have reputed institutions, India Post is a government entity, you have large players like DHL and FedEx, just the proof of delivery or can be a proof that they could accept. So if you can combine, and all of us are digital today, right? India Post is digital, DHL, FedEx is digital, the payments environment is digital. It's just you can have a big data solution which combines all of this, and using that confirmation, you can just give the MEIS directly to the bank account of the exporter without him having to run around to get this thing done. So that's kind of the future we would like to see. I mean, that's the one big wish list I would have. And if you can get this environment up and running, it becomes smooth as butter to get this done. And I think exports will go up accordingly.
Excellent. So what you're saying that the big data and the blockchain and the integration is required, the need of the hour for performance.
Yes, I think most countries are moving in that direction anyway. I think in China we have seen some of it happen already. So why not we look at that as ourselves?
So, madam, as you have quickly moved from May to August, we have a policy in place. How do you take the challenge which our export has posed to the government, and how fast government can react on the actual issues? Because these issues, if you resolve, then only you can accelerate from 500 million to 500 billion. If it's any small entrepreneur, especially the rural, have to struggle getting the incentive and have to knock the door from one place to another place, we have to create. What is your reaction on this?
Thank you very much for the question. As we all know, the government's very firm commitment, and that has been proved by the issuance of the national policy on e-commerce. So what we are looking at is that we are now aware and we are listening to what the traders want, so what the industry wants. We are also in close cooperation with the other departments so that we can work together. There is no single solution what the CBIC can give. We can't work in isolation. So because of that, we are working hand in hand with the Department of Commerce, with the Department of Post, and the RBI to come up with a comprehensive and a lasting solution to the problems that is being faced.
How much time you think that, in your perception, to meet this challenge? Because this challenge has to be met.
So you have noted that we had the conference in May, and we're sitting here today, and the regulations have been issued. So I'm expecting a similar speed.
Oh, congratulations and best of luck, madam.
Thank you.
Moving on to a young lady entrepreneur. Madam, Miss Sadika, what makes you come to India? You have been working in the Fortune 200 company in the US, which is one of the finest places in the e-commerce. What made you feel to come back to India and to start this online services to benefit small, medium exporters?
Well, to the question why I came back to India, I wanted to come and be a part of this movement. India is growing very rapidly, and this is where I wanted to be. In terms of why we started this service for free, we used to provide a lot of services to other exporters to manage their logistics. And some of exporters came up to us and said, oh, look, there's this new regulation, and we need these printed PBEs. And we looked at it and determined that, okay, this wasn't too complex, and it's something we could do. We started engaging with India Post and the Customs Department at the foreign post offices. And while I was there, I had an exporter come up to me, and he had a bag of Baba Ramdev Patanjali shampoos and soaps that he exports abroad. And he said, oh, I need this printed PBE too, can you help me? Based on the kind of exporters that we serve, we decided that it makes sense for it to always be a free application. We want our application to be able to reach and help small businesses, startups, rural areas, and we don't want to charge money or ever have money be a constraint for people to be able to take their products made in India out to the world.
Okay, good. So in terms that you are helping small, medium exporters.
Yes.
My question to you is how complex your website is. Suppose a rural entrepreneur or a small exporter wanted to use your service. How easy interface the website is and how fast you are? Is supported by a call center or just online?
Yes, so we have a web application and we have a 24/7 technical support team based out of Delhi that's available to help you all the time via phone or email or online chat. We also set up service centers at all the different foreign post offices at Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai. And we basically wanted to be there and help the exporters in person. So anyone coming and visiting a foreign post office would get that assistance. The app is very easy to use. We've kind of streamlined the process that if you enter your information once, you don't, there are all these different forms. Forms for banks, forms for the custom clearance, postal forms like the CN 22, 23, that you enter your information once and you can get all of these forms together. So it's a fairly easy process. As long as you have access to a computer and an internet connection, you're good to go.
Good. So you are a part of this change, big change which India is witnessing now. As a young women entrepreneur, I would like to ask you, what are the key challenges or maybe improvement you would like to see from the government or from your client side, both?
I think that this was a great step from the department to streamline and to standardize a process that wasn't laid out. I mean, a lot of exporters like using India Post, especially small businesses, people in rural areas. India Post has unparalleled PIN code coverage. Nobody can reach as far as India Post can, and they have a lot cheaper rates than DHL or FedEx or other private courier services. So a lot of small businesses like using India Post, but it's been a challenge for them in the past. And I think now having a standardized process where you go to any FPO and you know exactly what you have to do and what forms you have to provide has made it a lot easier for them to navigate the system. It's also made it easier for them now to take advantage of the incentives, like MEIS, like getting, putting all their bank work in so they can get their GST refunds. So I think that has been a huge step forward, and a lot of exporters have been very happy about this standardized process. I think the step forward is everyone wants to close the gap between the exporter and the FPO. So I think, as ma'am already mentioned, I think we need more FPOs. There are 19 FPOs that have been notified to have all of them functional.
Good. So I think what you rightly said, 19. My question to Madam Jamir. India has more than 64,000 post offices. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Majority of I think the next India exporting will be from rural India, rural urban India. In your terms, 19 is not enough. How fast India can expand so that the reach to unreach in the most simplified form can be extended to our budding exporters?
Thank you for the question. I do absolutely agree that India, with its vastness, 19 FPOs is simply not enough. And we are working closely with the Department of Post to have the 19 at least up and running. CBIC is also looking at new and innovative solutions to bridge that gap. So we are open to industry suggestions. We are also open to new solutions that technology can afford. So we are open to it, and we are trying to find a solution so that this gap is bridged, and we will be able to reach the most remote locations.
Don't you think that the next world, the coming time, is of partnership, collaboration, and especially when government and industry have to work together, so-called public-private partnership? So in your terms, don't you think that we should enable a public-private partnership with one of the best few logistic companies to expedite the process of this growth?
Well, we have seen that sort of partnership in the courier industry, and it has worked very fine. So I don't see any reason why it should not work or it should not be done in the FPOs as well. So it's a very welcome suggestion.
Thank you, panelists. Now we will have some questions, answers from our viewers who are watching us. And then I'd like to invite one by one. We have Piyush Pathak online with us right now. So Piyush is question 2. Hello, can I import mobile phone from China and sell it in India or Amazon with my company branding? I think I'll ask Preetham to answer this question.
Well, Piyush can certainly import his mobile phones from China and sell it in India, but perhaps he'll have to check on the branding part, because there will be intellectual property rights issues, and the brand in China will have a copyright and IPR that they're licensed, and that I think he will have to check on. But logistically, this is perfectly possible. People do it already. People can buy a lot of mobile phones from anywhere in the world, import it in India, and then put it up on Amazon or any other website and sell it. Absolutely.
Good, thank you. We have second viewer asking the question, Rafia Khan. Rafia is asking, I am a ready-made garment manufacturer in Surat, and I sometimes get orders from European countries, but the courier charges and other formalities by private companies are quite high. So I'll again ask Preetham to answer this question.
Sure. What I would like to tell Rafia is that depending on how quickly she needs to send those garments, and whether or not those orders are business to business or business to consumer, will kind of determine how she manages it. If it is business to consumers, we are getting a lot of orders from individuals in Europe, and they want you to send your garments fairly quickly. Your best options are, of course, either courier or India Post, if that is workable for you. India Post EMS will have a slightly lower price sometimes, but not all the time. But the nature of things is those will be expensive, because sending a small individual consignment is always somewhat more expensive. On the other hand, if you have B2B customers and you're looking at, they are willing to wait for a longer time, there are other different options available to you. So, I would need more details from you perhaps to understand what exactly you have in mind.
So we have now Ashika Pandey from Bihar, and asking, I'm a murti maker in Bihar. How do I sell my murtis in America? I'd like to ask Sadhika to answer this question. Murti maker to America.
Right. Get online. If you're new, I think Amazon or eBay or any other marketplace offers a great launchpad for new exporters. It helps you get your product out there to millions of consumers worldwide. And then you can determine what your market, what your demand for your product is like. And then get on your own private label e-commerce site, and companies like Pick My Box or other companies out there can help you through that process of setting up, getting you set up with your digital presence and helping you export either through India Post or courier service.
Thank you. Our next viewer asking question to our respected madam from Customs. Is Custom Department having any help center or online facility? Anil Sani is asking, and he says the agent charges a lot of money for clearance activities. Please.
Yes, the Customs Department, in every commissionerate, that is in any office of Customs, you can go and visit, and there is a help center. So you can have your doubts clarified in that center. And agreed that the Customs House agents might be charging a lot for customs clearance activities, but there is also an option for self-clearance. So if you read up on the law, and which has been simplified to a great extent, you can opt for self-clearance and completely do away with the need of a clearance agent.
Thank you. Thank you. I think these kind of seminars are definitely going to help, very informative for our viewers. I'd like to thank Facebook, especially Rajat Arora and the team, for providing this platform. We have another 15 seconds, so I'll pick up another question in the interest of the viewer. Vishal Maheshwari asking, I am making electric cycles. can I export these cycles to Bangladesh and Indonesia? I'll request Dr. Preetham to kindly.
Absolutely. I mean, you can, and as Sadhika pointed out, there are some regulatory things you need to do, like get an importer-exporter code and things like that. But logistics is very much available. But perhaps for a bigger, bulkier item like electric cycle, which also includes batteries and other regulatory aspects, the best option might not be Courier or India Post. You might have to look at a regular freight forwarder and find a solution for your logistics.
Thank you. Thank you. I think with this, we'd like to close this discussion, and we welcome such interaction more quite often with the government, with the DHL, with the women and our young India entrepreneurs. We should all pledge taking India to, in next 10 years, from 500 million to 500 billion on accelerated highways. And whatever is required to reform from the government side, from the industry side, from private sector side, from Young India side, we all have to pledge to help rural and rural-urban entrepreneurs to grow.
I think it's in our interest to do that. So yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time and your presence. With this, I'd like to close it. Thank you.